So, there's been an increased blurring line between physical and the digitally simulated world. Gartner actually recently revealed that 25% of customer service operations will use virtual customer assistants by 2020. And that's up from less than 2% in 2017. And a lot of this is driven by things like NLP, machine learning, intent matching capabilities. We also see that 30% of all B2B companies will employ some kind of AI to augment at least one of their primary sales processes. We're also seeing a lot of trends around data and design that are merging into creating something new, creating new experiences. So we're here to really look at how organizations are using immersive technologies to enrich experiences, to really go beyond what maybe some of us think of immersive technology is. So just a quick introduction, I'm Lenny Allen. I am a portfolio marketing manager at IBM. I run a portfolio of data science and AI products. And so I am thrilled here with this incredible panel, and I'm going to hand off the mic to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Megan Luboska, and I'm with Gensler. We're the world's largest, most profitable architecture firm. We have about 5,000 employees, and we make billions of square feet that millions of people experience every day. So part of my role as the creative media leader at Gensler is to figure out how we can incorporate virtual and augmented reality into our workflows. And this is really an accessibility issue. If I asked you all to imagine what you had for breakfast this morning, the odds are that 10% of you see nothing in your mind. So this is a condition called aphantasia, and everyone is kind of on this spectrum of being able to visualize. So for our clients and our partners who are spending millions of dollars on a building, giving them the ability to walk through it before they actually have to start construction is really incredible.
Hi, I'm Kavya Parvin. I'm the founder and CEO of XR Safety Initiative. It is the very first global nonprofit that advocates around privacy, security, and ethics in virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. We collectively call it XR. I also advise WallArm, which is an application security company. They use artificial intelligence and machine learning to solve security, cybersecurity type challenges.
Hi everyone, my name is Marina Shamaeva. I'm tech evangelist, big entrepreneur. 3 years ago, I started my own company. I'm co-founder and chief technological officer at CruiseBee. Basically, CruiseBee is a cruise planning technology, AI chatbot assistant, and voice recognition solution. So we work in the cruise industry market, combining together 3 players of the market. Cruisers, travelers, who use our tool to plan their cruise vacation, travel agents who use our planning technology for creating personalized offers and sell cruise deals, and vendors in ports of call who are using our platform, mobile app, and website to get in contact directly with their customers, cruisers. Thank you.
Hi, Hi, I'm Allison. My background is in robotics and AI, and I used to work on simulation at the Uber self-driving division. And right now, I'm an engineering lead at RideOS, where what we're trying to do is to provide ride-hail services to companies that work on self-driving vehicles and human-driven fleets. And my role there is I lead the development of simulation again, and also work closely with partners to help them integrate their vehicles into our backend services so that we can provide ride-hail services for users to actually have ride-hail.
Great. So when we think of immersive technologies, we hear a lot of different terms. So I wanted to at least start off by level set a little bit of what these things are. So you hear things like AR, which is augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, mixed reality, MR, and extended reality. So I'm going to turn it to the panelists and ask them to kind of explain a little bit to us what these things really mean and what they are doing in this field. Would you like to start?
Sure. So this is a very interesting question. So when we think about immersive technologies, in fact, there was a war going on Twitter. It's like, oh, let's call it AR or XR or MR. So I specifically wanted to pay interest to it, and a lot of my advisors too. So we wanted to put an end to this, and we decided to sort of standardize this. So according to XR Safety Initiative, we've put out 3 definitions, and then we've collectively called it XR. So virtual reality. What is virtual reality is literally just digitally created immersive environment. You can use software to create an immersive environment all around you, and you have to use either head-mounted display goggles or some sort of medium around you. In the future, we anticipate we could be using lenses to even see into virtual reality environments. And then there is the augmented reality, and I think you are working in augmented reality space. It would be nice to hear your definition.
Okay, so for augmented reality, I describe it as digital content overlaid on the physical world. So we are working with things like iPhones and tablets to visualize something like maybe signage or wayfinding in an airport space. And we're also working with head-mounted devices like Microsoft's HoloLens or the Magic Leap to say, for example, we wanted to do a new design in the room we're all in. If we wanted to take out this stage, change the carpet to a new color, maybe a different type of chair, with this headset you can overlay the content on a one-to-one scale and walk through and see how that might look. When it comes to mixed reality, we think of that as this digital overlay like augmented reality, but one in which you can actually interact with it. So seeing that overlay but being able to touch a chair and have the upholstery color change on it, something like that. I'm not sure, is that the same definition?
It's consistent, yeah. When I think about mixed reality, it's almost like being able to interact with your environment. So you're mixing digital overlays with, let's say you're able to operate a forklift. That could be an example of mixed reality. Augmented reality, however, all of you guys are potentially using like Instagram filter. That's AR. And every one of you is currently using it. Most of you.
Very cool. So Allison, maybe switch to you. You're doing something really cool on your side. Do you want to explain?
Yeah, sure. The way I look at it is, I come from a different perspective, so because I work on robotics, so I look at it in terms of simulation, which is actually very similar to how we talk about like VR, AR, and MR. The way I look at it is we create a virtual world. So simulation creates a virtual world for robots to run in. So for example, we write an algorithm for a self-driving vehicle. Right? How do we know if the vehicle will do the right thing? Well, we create a virtual world and run that algorithm. So we put a virtual self-driving vehicle, run it in that world, see what happens. And that's kind of how I view immersive technology, to actually create this sort of world in order to let algorithms, robots, and software be able to run and test things.
Very cool. So we hear that immersive technology can be really used in any industry. And so Marina, if you want to talk a little bit about how you define it and how you're using it in your world.
I can take it from here and specify the definition of AI so it could be better understood by the audience. So in our case, we began to use AI as a chatbot solution and it could be used across different industries. So in our daily life, the usage of chatbots and voice-enabled assistants is unbelievable, and nearly every fifth American has a smart speaker device at home. So what we created the first Cruise AI chatbot, and then we transitioned to a voice-enabled assistant. As a result, creating a virtual travel agent that completely can create you your journey, like day-by-day schedule, how you can plan your vacation, without using like a physical person, but with the help of using artificial intelligence and all the data that we can collect from different servers and different sources.
Very cool. So maybe start back with you, Megan. So you guys at Gensler are really trying to connect the customer side of things with this immersive technology. Do you want to talk a little bit more specifically about the projects that you're working on?
Sure. Do we have any Lakers fans here? Yeah. Any cheering? Just hands in the air. Okay, so one of the first clients that we put in virtual reality was Kobe Bryant. And it was around the time when he was retiring from basketball and he was looking to what he was going to do for his next step. And he decided to start this foundation. And so we did a design for the built space that he was planning to occupy. He ended up changing his game plan. But at the time when we put him in VR, the project was almost finished. You know, we'd gone through a year of design and reviews. And it wasn't, and he said, you know, I want to sit in my desk. And he had loved everything. And it wasn't until he actually went in virtual reality, went and sat at his desk, looked around and said, oh, there's nowhere for my kids to sit and do their homework after school. So it was something that was just so simple that he had always envisioned about the space, but we just never knew. And once he's in virtual reality, we're able to see that. So we use it for other things like vetting out different mechanical systems or structural conditions that might clash before it's built. So virtual reality has been really helpful in just eliminating surprises in the build process. But then the more, I think, exciting use case is augmented reality and how these digital and physical worlds are going to be overlaid. So we have this new area of practice that we call digital experience design, where it's all about that. If it's a custom app that needs to be made for a space, something like wayfinding in a retail store, or a really fun project that we just finished working on is called the Museum of the Dog. It's in New York City, it's for the American Kennel Club. And you're able to learn things like how to train a dog by having this virtual dog react to your hand gestures. So there's all sorts of interesting use cases that are coming up where your building becomes smart, your building starts to know you, and all of these things like augmented reality, cloud computing, data, artificial intelligence are kind of converging into this idea of like a spatial web.
That's very cool, and I just want to clarify, I'm a Mavs fan. That's why. I think that's really, really awesome to hear, you know, some practical applications of this technology. So maybe turning it over, I'm going to skip you, Kavya, because we're going to come back to you to something really interesting. So maybe Marina, talk a little bit about how this immersive technology is. How are you seeing this really helping with the customer experience, and specifically, you know, like how it improves, you know, their experience in general?
Well, okay, the usage of any technology in like any industry is really a really hard thing for the implementation, because there are always some pros and cons when using technology. If we're talking, for example, about the usage of chatbots and voice assistants in any type of business, like a solution that could completely replace customer centers and support centers. Despite the fact that we're living in the 21st century, some people simply don't want to talk to a machine. So you always have to have a backup for the technology. Also, when we're integrating machine learning into our chatbot solution, you know, it's like a process that should be controlled by people anyway, like even on hourly basis at first, because all the technologies that we're creating and all the solutions that we're integrating, we have to carefully see how the process is helping your company in one or another way. If we're talking about the solution, as I said, chatbots, and we're combining it with AR and VR, a little example about the travel industry. Many of us rely on visual sensations when planning a vacation, and what could be more interesting when you're using a chatbot and it is visualized in the form of a virtual travel agent using AR and VR, and it helps you to plan your vacation in an instant click, and then you instantly can be in a Colosseum and see the fights, or you can instantly go to the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II to Westminster Abbey. So, and it's all here, and sooner or later this technology will become an inevitable part of our daily life.
So you talk a lot about data, and you know, you need a lot of data for things like natural language processing, which is the NLP that you're talking about. Does your chatbot have a name?
So yeah, it's really a very tricky question. Firstly, we started with just the name of our brand, Cruise-B. So it's like the easiest thing to remember, because we are focused on the cruise industry market. But if you're making a chat about anyone, you want people to memorize it. I think it's better to give a name and to make it like a woman or man.
Yeah, there's, we all know there's Siri, there's Alexa.
Yes.
And
That's a really very interesting point of view.
Very cool. So back to the data side, Allison, on the whole self-driving side of things, right? There is an enormous amount of data that's needed over there. How have you seen that really help you in what you guys are doing in your immersive technology?
I would say that in terms of self-driving, right, there's a lot of data that the vehicle collects just going out in the world. I think, for example, the lasers can generate something like 3 million points per second, right?
Did you say 3 million points?
Right, 3 million points per second.
That's a lot.
So the data scales that we're talking about when a vehicle finishes a trip could be in terabytes or petabytes level, right? So when we come to simulation, the idea is really how do you make use of all this data to create something that's actually useful, right? Because you have a lot of data, a lot of information, but you really want to distill what really matters. So, for example, let's say that the vehicle encounters a situation where the safety operator takes over the vehicle, right? So what you actually want to do in terms of with simulation and immersive technology is that you want to actually figure out what actually happened there, right? So that then you can create a scenario that you can backtest your software on, and not only just this particular version of the software, you actually want to be able to test it on future versions as well. So you know that if it works now, it will keep working in the future. And in addition, because this is in simulation, you don't only want to test it on that single scenario that you saw, you want to test it on variations, right? So maybe let's say, maybe the example was that the light turned red as the vehicle was making a turn, right? Maybe you want to create some more variations. What happens if the light turned red a little bit later, a little bit earlier, right? And you can imagine different combinations of things happening, especially as the scenario gets more complex, with people being involved, with other vehicles on the road and things like that. So I think that's where a lot of data comes into play.
Very cool, very cool. So moving on to Kavya. So, one of the things that we want to talk about here is, the future. What does that look like for immersive technology? We'll start with you.
So, whenever I talk about the future, I'm mostly sort of dystopic and Black Mirror scenario. So I'm going to start with the good part here. So I think the future is really exciting with immersive technologies. Like, I'm anticipating that I should be able to order my Uber and tell Siri and do the payment processing. In fact, any gamers out here? Anybody knows Second Life? Oh, yeah. It's like a role-playing game. So prior to XR Safety Initiative, I was the Information Security Director for Second Life. And the maker of Second Life, which is Linden Lab, also rolled out a virtual reality platform called Sansar. So I was able to, I was thinking about different ways to train people in virtual reality to do security awareness. Because, every time I talk about security, people roll their eyes and they're like, oh, there she goes. So I was like, all right, what if I just take everybody to, I'm originally from India, I'm going to take everybody to Taj Mahal. So that's what I did. I was like, okay, let's build a scalable model of Taj Mahal. In VR, we already have the platform. And we ran like a month-long campaign in 2018 in October. It was Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and played a bunch of games and talked about security. It was fun. So I think a lot of these dry topics, meetings in VR, I had to travel from San Francisco to here. I don't think that we would be doing that anymore. We would organize these conferences in immersive ways, in virtual reality, without having to travel. Things that Megan's doing, you don't have to really build the whole building before you see it. I want people to see it. And all of this is already possible. Payment is already possible. I want to order my pizza in VR, have it delivered by a drone, and that's
I
where,
think we're getting pretty close to that.
right?
Isn't Domino's
technology
already doing
exists.
something close to that?
Yeah, and that's where the bad part comes in, and that's where I get concerned. It's like, why aren't we doing that? Because of trust, because of security, because of privacy, and the amount of data that we're collecting. What could go wrong if that data ends up in wrong hands? And that's the reason why when I left Linden Lab after advising all these risks and anticipating these things, I really just took these lessons to start something to get ahead of these risks, because they're coming for us. And that's the challenge that, all of us stakeholders, we're gonna go into these immersive worlds, but we should go with awareness. And that's the bad part.
And I
Sorry.
think that kind of connects to, who is it that was saying it this morning, Uncle Ben's message, with great power comes great responsibilities, right? So it's definitely something to be thinking about. I'm not saying we should be freaking out about it, but it's definitely something that we should consider. I know, even on the data and AI side of things, absolutely there are concerns of security, concerns of bias, right? There's a lot of different, like human bias is really what injects bias into your models and into these things. So that's another piece that we really need to take consideration. Megan, do you want to talk a little bit about where you see, from your perspective, because you are in a different industry and, designing virtual reality houses. Maybe security isn't as big of a deal, so I don't know. What does that look like for you, where you see?
Oh, okay, so I would say, I'm a big fan of rules and regulations. Architects take a vow to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public, if you didn't know, so we all do that.
It's like doctors
Yeah.
for houses.
So I do think that our virtual spaces should be as safe and as comfortable and as beautiful as our physical ones, which is why I think architects should be playing a role in designing them. We don't want everything looking like we're inside an episode of South Park or, a slot machine at a casino. So we want them to be spaces where we'll spend a lot of time in them. And the other thing that is really exciting about all this convergence is I kind of mentioned the spatial web a little bit earlier. So you might have heard this by other names like the AR cloud, the metaverse, the mirror world. And it's this idea that once we have these billions of machines connected to the internet with the Internet of Things, how is all of this data going to be processed as being located in a physical space? So if any of you are interested in that, the OpenAR Cloud is a group that's trying to put together rules on how all of that is regulated, how all of these things talk to each other. If we have, really important data that is all about the city streets, what about the inside of a building? Who owns that? Where are the boundaries? And so the same way that the internet was a huge revolution and we all have an identity on there, this idea of this mirror world of our own world in virtual space, I think, is really interesting, and that it's going to create all sorts of weird jobs we've never thought of, like caretakers of virtual buildings, whose job it is to update them to make sure that they're matching the existing ones, or just trying to understand how people and information flows through a space.
That sounds very interesting. So it sounds like there will be potentially new jobs.
So many new jobs
created, really just with the emergence of this technology and really all this digital, transformation that is happening right now. To Allison, what are you excited about for the future of immersive technology?
Well, I think what's exciting is right now, today, we can use simulation and immersive technology to test things that happen in real life, create variations and all that, but ultimately they're still rooted in real life. I think where it gets really exciting is being able to extend this technology to test things that are just difficult to see in real life. So things that are 1 in a million, 1 in a billion, right? Because humans are really unpredictable, right? If we wait for the day that something happens before we know what what the algorithm will do, what the vehicle will do, it might be too late. So I think where it gets really exciting is to be able to generate scenarios, generate situations, from our imagination, from machine learning, from data, all sorts of sources, and create and test all these sorts of things automatically, and also in a really, in a realistic way that makes sense and helps the algorithms become better.
Very cool. So, maybe we come kind of to the closing of this panel. I want to talk a little bit about challenges and lessons. So, this is not an easy endeavor. Just like any technologies, we have to put a lot of thought around what to do. And so for those of you who are interested in maybe looking into adopting immersive technologies, maybe we'll start with you, Marina. Since you are a CTO and a practitioner, I'd like to maybe start with you on what are some of the challenges that you have faced in really getting into this world of immersive technologies.
When you're starting from the very beginning, from the very scratch, and there are so many tools around you can use for building your technology, you're just trying to try one tool at a time to see whether it fits your business, whether it fits your needs. And this is a challenge because we see lots of new companies that are being incorporated and who are focused on creating AR, VR technology, AI-powered customer support solutions. And this is a really difficult decision to select with what tool you should start building your product. If we're talking overall about the usage of immersive technology in various industries, according to multiple studies, we see that mostly this technology is being used in the entertainment industries. And it's really disappointing because we should use such kind of a tool in various industries across our life. So, okay, we see, again, going back to this era, to the industry of entertainment. People, for example, with disabilities or diseases using AR, VR headsets can go on a roller coaster, or adult entertainment lovers can go on a sex tour to Amsterdam, or people with some disabilities could climb an Everest. It's all very cool. It's all very, very exciting. But don't you think that this is the only way how we can use AR, VR, XR, whatever? No,
all
of
the
course.
Rs.
Yes, of course not. So we should see how this technology could be implemented in various industries, in various fields of our life.
I think that's a great point, and you ladies here are examples of how, we're thinking of innovative ways to really enrich people's lives and improve customer experience and improve safety, and there are all these different applications. So, Kavya, I know you have something that you really want to share.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to what you just said. So, just about last week, 11,000 plus scientists put out a warning saying it's a critical warning for global warming. And this is where immersive technologies are definitely one of the only things that's going to come to rescue to create immersive data visualization that will help humanity really understand how the ice is melting, create this empathy. So all of this data is already there. In fact, just yesterday I was sitting with Suzanne Borders from Bad VR. That's what their company is doing, is visualizing all of this data and talking to United Nations and how to now transfer this knowledge so people can actually take action. So there are some good use cases, like absolutely critical to humanity use cases, that only immersive technologies that we can rely on are coming to rescue. I just wanted to really mention that, because this is such
a very important thing. So this actually concludes our panel here. I just want to thank every one of you on this panel, and you have definitely brought my eyes to what this technology can do, and your explanation of this technology I think we all can really learn from. So thank you.